Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Built Different podcast. As always, I'll be your host today, Dr. Zach Clinton, and today we're having a meaningful conversation. As you know, a lot of these conversations really try to meet at the intersection of mental health, motivation, and ministry. And today we're going to be talking about a conversation and a topic that really just makes us human as we seek for connection, as we seek for meaning, as we seek for purpose. But a lot of us struggle with an epidemic that is infiltrating culture and society today, and it's that of loneliness. Today, we're joined by a very special guest who understands that journey, as many of us do. Ben Higgins first captured the world's attention on The Bachelor, but beyond the fame and highlight reels, he was fighting an internal battle with identity, loneliness, and purpose. In his powerful new book, Alone in Plain Sight, Searching for Connection When You're Seen But Not Known, Ben opens up about that struggle and invites us all into a conversation about what it really means to find connection, healing, and meaning in a world that often celebrates isolation. Today, we're going to unpack Ben's story, explore the epidemic of loneliness that's shaping our culture, and talk about what it means to be fully known and deeply loved by others and by God. Ben Higgins isn't just known for reality TV, though. He's the president and co-founder of Generous Coffee, a for-profit company that donates 100% of its profits to nonprofits making a difference around the world. He's also a co-owner of 2 Michelin-bib gourmet restaurants in Denver, where his mission to live generously and love others well continues to shine. So get ready, because this is more than a conversation about fame or success. It's about rediscovering identity, community, and the beauty of living with purpose. Ben, my friend, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the intro.
I'll say this, man. You got a lot going on, a lot of different hats, also a husband to Jess, a new dad to Winnie, which you said as of this recording, tomorrow will be 9 months. 9 months. With her just sharing incredible, precious moments with everything I got going on. Generous Coffee, mental health advocacy, podcasting, speaking, traveling. Man, what are you most excited about in this particular season of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I'm 36 years old. My 20s were spent building a lot of this.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my 20s single, and so I had a lot of time to build a lot of this. And at 36, it's now continuing the story. So the roots are built, the foundations are built. What excites me is now continue to spread this story. Not as much like growth of a business. Generous Coffee, as you said, donates 100% of its profits to nonprofits. So I don't make money on it. Any other owner doesn't make any money on it. We never will. But for us, our motivation is to expand the mission, expand the vision. And that's what excites me. I am so fired up to be a part of stories that are doing something good around the world. I want a seat at the table to hear those stories, to be a part of those stories, to help in those stories if I can, or just to follow along if that's where I belong. And so that's what's firing me up.
You're continuing to do amazing things. I know a lot of people are just encouraged by your work. I know I am, my friend. And so I'm grateful, again, just for this time with you. Time is so precious, especially when you're in a leadership role, when you do travel as much as you do. It's probably something that you try to protect and preserve. So just, again, extending gratitude that you'd make the drive down here to spend some time with us today. But where I want to pick up is I want to go back into the backwater of Ben Higgins' story. Pre-Bachelor, before life probably blew up, the social media account probably blew up, all of life just turned a different direction. But I want to know, who was Ben Higgins before The Bachelor?
Yeah, well, in short, I grew up in Indiana, in an incredible town called Warsaw. Warsaw is an amazing place to grow up. It is. The people are kind, they're generous, they get fired up about anything new and exciting because it's in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. Was a big athlete. Spent my whole life in athletics. It was not only my identity in kind of a healthy way. Like it was what I wanted to do for fun. It's what I wanted to do to stay active, to stay healthy. And so athletics were a huge part of my life. And then I got my second start in varsity football as a junior, and I rolled out of the pocket and threw a pass, and a kid hit me in the knees, blew out my ACL, PCL, MCL, just shredded my knee.
Goodness.
And I remember that moment of laying on the ground being like, everything's about to change. I don't know how. Yeah. I don't know what's going to look like, but everything's about to change. And I never really got back to athletics again. I kind of was a bench warmer. I couldn't really get my athleticism back. This was, goodness, 20 years ago. And so technology wasn't as great. But following that, because of the severity of the injury, they had to wait a little bit to get my surgery, and I got severely addicted to painkillers. Not only because I needed them for the pain, but also because it was numbing the brutality of a high schooler watching his buddies compete on a field or on a court and being like, I want to be out there and I can't. I think there's just no way. And so that lasted for about 4 years of my life, really through college. I went to Indiana University, studied business. Just because it seemed like the path. The interesting nugget at this time was because of my past in athletics, all of my roommates played basketball at Indiana University. And so I write about this in the book because I think it's a big moment for me. I got really used to going out with them. We'd be at a restaurant. People would come up and be like, oh my gosh, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. And then they'd look at me and they'd say, who are you? And I remember my response was always, oh, I'm just their buddy. And after years of doing that and of mentally kind of like adopting this mentality of I'm just their buddy, I'm nothing more than that, and I'm just happy to be their friend and go to their games and whatever. I had not just a humble view of myself, but a very low view of myself, a very inadequate view. Left college, moved out here to Denver, Colorado, where I took my first job, the only job offered to me out of college, and was working at a tech company up until obviously the time of the show.
Talk to us then, Ben, just in hearing what life was like, just searching, right, for meaning, having those insecurities that I think so many of us wrestle with in hiding, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But then seeking identity, you get the chance to join the show. It was at season 11, I think it was.
Of The Bachelor, yes, I actually don't know.
Something
it
like
was something around that time.
Something around that time, but I'm just interested in that moment when you're on the show. I've had several conversations with other individuals that have been on the show themselves, and they talk about that there's like a moment where in a snap of a finger, like life changes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like social media accounts, you have this fame, this popularity, but still kind of seeking like, who am I in the midst of all of this? What was that season like for you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the basement of a tech company writing user manuals was my job going into it.
Right.
I had moved to Denver and didn't really have any friends, wasn't dating, not a great sense of community. And then, really, I mean, no way other to say it is within a week they call and they say, hey, you want to come on the show? And I say yes. And then I fly to Los Angeles and all of a sudden you're on a set of a show and you're living in the house with a bunch of dudes and you're trying to figure out how in the world you got there. And then you get off the show. And for me, it was a little different. So when I was on The Bachelorette, before I became The Bachelor, I had a moment during that experience where a producer of the show came to me and he said, hey, let's go in this room and talk. And what they call an ITM. It's the interviews you see where it's just the person's face. And it was a 3-hour interview, which is very uncommon. They're usually 20 minutes. Wow. But he starts it, and this is a guy I love dearly, very smart man, still very successful to this day. But he starts the conversation. This is one of the first times I'd had a meeting with him. Yeah. And he says, Ben, I don't like you. And I said, okay. And he said, I don't like you because I don't know you. You don't let anybody get to know you. Wow. And he goes, you say the right thing at the right moment, and then you stay quiet when things are difficult. I have no clue who you are. And in the course of that conversation with me responding and me weeping in tears because he was like, there's a little bit of producer in there where it's like pulling stuff out of you that they know exists that you don't even know exists at the time. I had admitted to him, well, the reason I do that is because I'm fearful that the more people get to like me or know me, the less they would like me. So the more people get to know me, the less they would like me. And because of that, I felt unlovable, or I felt like it was impossible for somebody to look at me in the eyes and say, hey, you're going to be my partner for the rest of life, or hey, you can be my friend for the rest of your life. So I said this on national television then to The Bachelorette at the time. Wow. It airs, and that was my moment, I think, where you're talking about where it pivots, everything changes. I was nervous for that moment. I thought I would get just absolutely blasted from the public because this vulnerable, insecure, questioning man is on this show and he's saying these things. No, it was the opposite. It was an astounding response of, I feel this way also. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this on a TV show like this. How do you deal with this kind of stuff? And at the time I hadn't. So like I was not the expert. I was still living in that season of feeling that way, or, you know, still at times today feel that way. And so a lot of it was just this like organic community being built around me where it helped me feel less alone. And it helped me feel like the more I spoke these insecurities that were kind of haunting me internally, actually the more connected I would become to the people in the world around me.
You know, you mentioned this idea of really suffering in silence. And I think there are so many people, Ben, that do that on a regular basis. I serve as a professional counselor, and so I get to see people who literally come to me because it's the confidentiality aspects and it's the restraints of a room, and they're able to open up and be authentic for maybe the first time in their life. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the words, I've never shared this with anyone before. And I think specifically to men, though, and I want to open up here for a moment about, we just had a retreat in the Blue Ridge Parkway just a couple of days ago this past weekend, 130 guys that came, and I was hearing stories like crazy of guys who were just broken, Ben, and they had nobody to turn to. I'm interested, what do you think it is about men specifically that really makes us kind of lock up and just kind of fear or shrink from vulnerability?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I can speak, to when I wrote the book, I did hundreds of interviews with people to try to get to the heart of why we stay silent or why we're feeling the way we are, disconnected. And a lot of it is the fear that comes with opening up. And so I think as men, we've been surrounded by so many groups. And one, you know this as a professional, but the negative is like a Velcro to our minds. So we can have all these incredible experiences. We can have all these incredible conversations. But one negative conversation, if I was to open up to you today and you came back with me with like, that's silly, that's not, that's not true. That's what would stick with me, right? That changes my paradigm. And so I think for me, and so many, it's a fear of, I don't know when, or I don't know if the door's open for me to have those type of conversations. Also, I think in today's world, we really only can have those conversations through a face-to-face. Social media only does so much, but we can't post so many crying videos on social media before it gets a little awkward. And so we need to sit face-to-face with somebody and say, hey, how you doing? Really, how are you doing? I want to share what's going on in my life. I would love for you to share what's going on in yours. But that really comes with a trusted friendship, which I think we're lacking today more than ever.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, because I see so many people using their phones, using devices, and as many would say, even the Barna research has shown, we're the most digitally connected generation, but the most relationally disconnected generation to ever walk the face of the earth, and that's referring to millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and it's just sad. I think Jonathan Haidt's done a really good job of kind of prefacing a lot of that research in The Anxious Generation. Justin Whitmel early in his book Made for People, but now in this book, Alone in Plain Sight. It's recognizing this aspect that so many people get lost in loneliness. I want to rattle off a couple of stats here for a moment. You shared how recent studies show that 1 in 2 adults in the U.S. feel lonely. A Cigna research survey of over 20,000 participants 18 and older, 54% felt that no one knew them. 46% reported feeling alone. 47% felt left out. 43% lacked companionship, felt their relationships weren't meaningful or felt isolated from others. 39% felt no longer close to anyone. 59% felt like their interests and ideas were never shared. And 36% didn't feel like they had a single person in their life that they could turn to. That's devastating. And Ben, what I want to ask then, and we're not shaming anybody here that maybe feels lonely, but I think I want to highlight for them and help them grow an awareness of the dangers of living an isolated life. What would you say some of those dangers are?
Well, I mean, I think there's massive health dangers,
Absolutely.
Right? It's studies have shown that a deep feeling of loneliness is equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and I don't think even a smoker would say that's like healthy for you, right? It's also the mental health aspect of the circling. In my life, some of the tools that I've had to develop because of my struggles with this have been to surround myself with just a small group of people that I can call and be like, hey, this is what's going on in my mind. You tell me your perspective on this. helped me get clarity on this. Obviously, marriage helps with that too. My wife plays a big role in that.
Absolutely.
But it's detrimental to who we are, and it also paralyzes us. I think from that freedom that as believers we can say we have freedom in Christ. But then there's this paralyzation of our own inner turmoil that crushes that freedom from experiencing the joy and the peace that comes with this truth. And so there, you have the faith aspect, you have the mental health aspect, and you have the physical health aspect. And I think all of those is detrimental to who we are becoming and who we are as people.
I love this idea in your book. You talk about that really it's the connectedness within ourselves that is kind of the prefacing factor in the connectedness that we will have with other people. In other words, it's the identity that really will lead into a proper intimacy with God and with other people too. And I think, as we continue, as I was reading through the book, that really stood out to me about this idea of helping people find meaning and find purpose. And you've talked about how the negative naturally sticks to the brain or sticks to the mind. And I'm just thinking about people live in shame, Ben, right? They're afraid of, like you said, if you really knew me, you may not like me, right? And then a lot of people also live in loneliness because there's someone who used to have friends, and all of a sudden life transitions, things happen, couple mistakes, whatever it might have been, a couple of decisions that were made that they feel like ostracize them away from other people, and they don't know how to get back. But I want to ask you, as it relates to identity, what's the journey that God has taken you on in really recognizing who Ben Higgins is in this season, so that way you might better love other people and offer them the spillover rather than the scraps of an empty cup?
Yeah, I mean, I think though there's a beautiful picture that's communicated by an author that I loved, that the human experience is made up of people, and when we if you put us in a picture, it'd be a stained glass window. So we're all different. Like we all bring different colors, different skill sets, different motivations, and to me, I might look unique, but when you put me in the picture, I fit just perfectly surrounded by everybody else. And so for me, in my experience, and what I really want to tell people out there when it comes to their identity is, obviously for me, I come from a place of faith. And so that is where my identity lies. Now, within that, though, I think the message has gotten a little bit diluted to where we think about our identity and our faith and in Jesus, and it feels like it needs to be cookie cutter. It feels like it all needs to look the same, right? That you have to follow these things and do these things, and if you're a real Christian and you're not lukewarm, you'll be doing these things. And I think we need to expand our view of God and think that, no, we are all unique, all beautifully made, all with different skill sets, and so it's going to look differently how we experience this journey. And so it's owning that. It's owning the uniqueness. It's owning our own personal experiences, our own personal journey. And then also relying on this beautiful calling from our God above to pursue the things that we're passionate about, to fight the injustices that are out there, to love people well, to love our neighbor well, to love God well, and let that form us. Now, if you're not of faith and you're not somebody of faith, and this book is still for you,
absolutely,
it's still very similar messaging. It's still what, for me, I write about in the book, when it comes to your passions and your purpose, what fires you up in life? Like when you wake up in the morning, maybe it is sports. Yeah. Maybe you're just so fired up to talk about golf all day long. Awesome. Okay, so take that and find the solution that you can fill and go after that. And it doesn't separate you from loving people well. I think even people that aren't of faith can still love people well. I would like to believe God is working in that moment, and showing us that our true nature is a nature that is desiring loving God and loving others. And so I think God does great work in those moments, but it's just still loving others, finding your passions and purposes, and then being very confident in your uniqueness. Nobody's going to look like you, and that's okay.
Because what God called unique, He also called wonderful. And it's that same idea of recognizing who you are in the kingdom of God, the value that you bring, the value that you offer, and that God can use each and every one of us every single day of our lives. We're listening to the Built Different podcast. I'm sitting here with co-founder of Generous Coffee. He is a podcaster. He's somebody that's working a lot in the mental health advocacy space, but at the same time, he is an author of a brand new book, Alone in Plain Sight, Ben Higgins. Ben, as we continue to dive in, you mentioned how faith is really the foundation of your identity. Mm-hmm. And I do want to press in on that a little bit more before we talk about some strategies to deepen and develop relationships and not do this life alone. But when I think about God, he has so many different names. One of my favorite is El Roi, which is the idea of the God who sees. The God who literally sees everything that we've done. There's that old quote that says that Satan, the enemy, he knows your name, but he calls you by your sin. But God, a God who sees your sin, who sees your past, who sees your mistakes, who knows everything there is to know about you, yet calls you by your name. Speak to just the impact that faith and that the Lord has had on your life and how it's helped you find out who you are by first having a proper understanding of who he is.
Yeah. I think first, what a beautiful idea and a beautiful truth.
Yeah.
That God is so vast and so big and so beautiful and loving that even knowing our sin and our past, that today we're still called accepted. I think that's an encouragement to me daily, especially in difficult seasons or seasons where I, feel like I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, just without any perspective, and feels like things are swirling. I think for me, nothing makes sense in my life without my faith.
Yeah.
And it's had different moments, right? You get, for me, it was kind of coming out of that addiction I spoke of.
Yeah.
I remember looking in the mirror and looking myself right in the eyes in this mirror and saying, God, if you're real and if you're there, I need you now because I don't know what's next. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know how I'm going to do anything next.
Yeah.
And God showed up. I don't want to over spiritualize these moments, but God showed up and forever I will be changed. I will never be the same from that moment. But that is a very different season than where I sit now. That season was one of the world seemed more beautiful, but it also seemed simpler at the time, right? You're fired up. You're standing on the street corners yelling Jesus' name to anybody that will walk by. And then you realize, okay, maybe there's some better strategies to how I can communicate the love of God and who Jesus is. But that was a very fired up season of just everything was new and everything was exciting. And now, I sit in a place of years of this relationship with Jesus and almost right now, like in a wrestling season, a season where there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of pain in the world. I write a book about this pain, so I'm kind of entered into it. And so it's a lot of the questions of, God, how is this playing out? What is happening here? Where is my response to this? My prayer at night right now is just, God, give me clarity to figure out my next best step, because I don't always know what that is. But I know you're real and I know you exist. And I know that you want me to take that next best step. So it's been kind of not a roller coaster ride, I would say, but it's been a lot of pivot points of how things have changed organically and sometimes forced by some wisdom from outside believers just saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this than what you're doing now. And being able to listen to that and staying open to learn from everybody. But still pursuing this God who I think has given us all value, who has given us all, and when I say all, purpose, and pursuing God with everything I got.
Man, as you're mentioning, I've heard it said that there's power in partnership, there's comfort in companionship or community, right? Both vertically with God, but then also horizontally with other people. And I'm starting to think about, a lot of what you do in the book too is you help debunk the lie that the romantic relationship is going to solve and fix all things. Yeah. I spent a lot of time with a lot of young adults over at the Liberty University area in Lynchburg and a lot of other college campuses, and so many people are seeking romantic relationships because not only do they want to put an end to their singleness, but they also are looking for somebody to complete them rather than somebody to simply connect with or complement them. And speak to just, again, how you kind of so brilliantly and eloquently brilliantly and eloquently speak within the book. You share just about that lie, and you help people recognize that you don't need somebody else. Although we're called to do life right together, you don't need somebody else to complete us, just need people to connect with for the pains of life.
Thanks for bringing up that section. It's my favorite section of the book.
Yes.
But it doesn't get brought up too often because a lot of times I'm speaking with people and they're more curious about the bachelor experience than they are about the contents of that section. I think it's one of the most valuable sections in the book for the reader because I can't relate as a married man to a lot of the pains and the struggles of being single. But I remember what it's like, wondering, hey, am I ever going to meet somebody? I want to meet somebody. I'm going to go on a television show to try to meet somebody. All these things that I did in my own life to try to find my partner. But I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough in the church setting is the beauty that is singleness.
Yep.
And there's a difference here. So you spoke to people who are single and wanting. They're desiring that partner. They want to find that soul, well, if you believe in soulmates, they want to find that partner.
Yeah.
And they're out there looking. And I think that's wonderful. Go after it. Pursue it. Like you said, there's a beauty in partnership and there's a beauty in that connection that comes with marriage. Yeah. But I have people in my life who are very well-respected Christian leaders and very well-respected people within the church who are single and not wanting. They don't have that desire. Content. They're very content. And as a result of being single, they're able to spread their message to grander places than I can. They can travel more. They can pick up and host people more. They can attend so many different events without the maybe the responsibilities that come with being at home. Yeah. And that's beautiful, and we need those people. And the message that I really wanted to get across is that's great. Can we start to respect those people and lift those people up? Not so that they walk into church on a Sunday morning or on a Wednesday night and everybody goes, hey, I have this person I want to set you up with. Yeah. To not give them that message, but to give them a message of, hey, you want to come over to my house for dinner and just hang out. Yes. Relationships don't have to be the topic. We don't have to pursue that avenue if that's not what you're looking for at this time. Or maybe just to start to listen more than you talk with them to hear why they're content in their singleness. Yes, for as much as the Bible talks about partnership and marriage and doing life together and the beauty of that, the Bible also speaks very clearly about the beauty of singleness and about what that can offer the world and offer a human. And so for me, I wrote that really out of again, coming from a problem that I was seeing, especially with people I was working with. Where they felt like I need to go find my partner. That's the only way life's going to make sense to me. Right. And saying, I think there's another way. I don't think we're promised marriage. We're not. That's the hard truth. We're not promised that we're going to find that romantic relationship in life. But does that mean that life wasn't worth it?
Right.
No, because going back to what I said before, we're all unique. We're all beautiful. We fit a piece of that stained glass picture. And if without it, it looks empty or has a hole in it, we need you to live your best self out in the moment that you're in.
Amen. It's that idea that, again, it doesn't matter your relationship status. God still has an incredible plan and purpose for your life. And everybody, the whole kingdom of God needs you, right? Yes. One of my favorite quotes is, tomorrow needs you. Doesn't matter what your situation looks like. Doesn't matter your circumstances at all. Just continue to show up and become the person, the man or the woman that God has destined for us to be. Yeah. I'm thinking more and more just about the idea that we need friends for the fire. It's one of my favorite stories in Scripture, Daniel chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And sometimes I wonder if they would have been able to stand up to the compromising culture, right? It sounds kind of familiar to what we find ourselves in today, if they didn't do life together. And I'm just thinking about friendship here. And you mentioned, Ben, kind of a simple strategy that I think is so practical for us. If we're trying to deepen and develop relationships even further, there has to be a level of curiosity. In counseling, we learned very early on that the greatest form of empathy is inquiry, asking more questions, making less assumptions, being able to get to know the story of somebody. But we live in a preoccupied society and culture. We're always head down in the phone. We're doom scrolling. I remember being in a soccer game the other day for my niece, and there was a father on the sideline that was supposed to be there watching his little girl. He's on the phone, and the little girl is doing all of these things just to get his attention. And she ends up yelling, "Would you just look at me, Dad?" And I'm just thinking about, there's somebody out there today listening, Ben, that's yelling those same things. Sure. Would you just not just look at me and see me physically, but would you take the time to know me. That's that verse, right? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Speak to just some practical strategies that you've learned along the way to deepen and develop community and relationships.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is the verse you just mentioned. What if that was also a calling to us for each other?
Yes.
To get to know my heart. That's my cry to you as a person, because I believe that God has placed people in our lives and that we're doing life together in this specific time on purpose and for a purpose. And I think as humans, we can connect with each other in grand ways, especially people within the faith community. I think that could be a differentiator when it comes to the world around us, is that we're more curious, we're more empathetic, we ask more questions, and we're okay sitting in spaces that sometimes feel a little difficult. Because people aren't used to being asked those questions. I think friendship for me has always kind of been simplified down to two things. I want accountability. I want, as you just mentioned, in the culture that we're experiencing right now. The truth is, this is not something new. Right, we like to feel like this is new. This is, you listen to radio shows from the 1920s. Some of the messaging is very similar to what it is today. And so I think the best question we can ask is, okay, in this moment that we're living in, how do we respond well? And I think accountability is crucial in that, because we can run this race forward and just be destroying relationships, be destroying people, pushing people aside along the way. And so we need a friend to hold us accountable, especially a friend who's coming from the same place of faith and the same place of their foundation, is to say, okay, let's reconsider what we're talking about here. Let's talk this out so that you're not so angry going forward, but you're coming at it from a place of peace and joy and kindness and the fruits of the Spirit that obviously come with our faith tradition. So I think accountability is a big piece. I think celebration is a huge piece.
Yes.
I'm on my way right now, right after this, to celebrate a friend who is the head basketball coach at Oral Roberts University. This is a dream of his as a kid. I was on his AAU team at 14 years old. I remember him talking about being a head coach one day. Wow. This is his first job. There's multiple people coming down from my friend group to celebrate him. We're only going there to celebrate him. Wow. That's a huge piece of friendship. I want him to know, not only am I watching every game this season, I'm a huge fan of ORU, I'm a huge fan of him, but I am excited for his successes. That doesn't always come easy, though, right?
It doesn't.
That's a big test of a friendship, if you can really get excited about your buddy's successes. And then also it's the mourning. I think it's the piece of, I need friends who will mourn with me when mourning's necessary.
Yes.
I wrote this book, and you mentioned Generous Coffee. I think over the last few years since the show, for me, a calling has become be a bridge builder between the secular and the sacred, and to hopefully offer things to the world that are approachable for both sides, and to still share the truth of my faith through them. And so for me, in my friendships even, it's the same thing. That same context is be the bridge builder, to be able to sit with those and whatever season they're in, to be a part of the bridge to get them either back on track or to help them keep launching forward.
Yes.
And so I'm looking at friendship, and I'm looking at my walk in life right now as trying to find ways to be the approachable bridge builder that people want to come to, no matter where they're at.
I love those three things, right? Seek accountability. Find somebody that will take you places in yourself that you couldn't go by yourself. Celebration. Seek people that will celebrate you and not just tolerate you. But then also people that will sit with you in the morning, in the hard moments in life. And they won't just, find comfort in the pit with you. Like, they'll help call you up to higher places, but they're also going to minister to you through tears and not always just through truth, right? Your presence sometimes more important than your perspective. I love those three things because they're so practical, and they're things that we can begin to look for, but also things that we can begin to implement to be the friend that we hope to have one day. Loving your neighbor, right, as you would want to be loved and treated as well. Ben, I wanted to ask this. Your wife, Jess, your daughter, Winnie, I'm interested how just their lives and the love that you share for them, how that has opened up this whole new door of intimacy in your life and just recognizing connection, even as a new dad. Like when you think about raising your daughter, in the world that you mentioned that really hasn't changed that much. I think Satan still has the same tactics and division and distraction and deception, all of these things that really pull us into isolation. What is something that you've learned that you want to instill within her to make sure that she grows up feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling known, and feeling secure?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think goodness, by a gift from God or by my own destruction, I have a story to tell. And so do you, and so does my wife, and so does anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the key elements to being a dad to my daughter will be being open with my story, so that she knows that, hey, he's not Superman. He's not Jesus. He's messed it up. He's tried to get it back on the right track. And he's messed it up again. And so just allowing her to never feel alone in her pain so that maybe shame isn't such a handcuff to her life. Because I think shame comes when we feel isolated and alone and we feel like we're the only people messing this thing up. So if my daughter can know that, no, my dad even did it, I think that's going to be really powerful for her. I was also given some really great advice right before she was born. I was so nervous to be a dad of a daughter. I'm an only child. I don't know how girls work. And he said it's very simple, Ben. You be the man to her that you hope she finds one day, and let your wife deal with the girl stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And I've still done that even if she's 9 months old. Like, I play with her. I can wrestle with her, and like let her flip around on the floor. And I think as we grow in our relationship, as she grows, that's going to still be my mentality is I'm going to be present. I'm going to stay curious. I'm going to stay open and honest with her. But I'm going to let my wife deal with the stuff that, comes with being a girl because I don't get it. I don't know. Some of that's even crazy, even in marriage. I'm like, what are you talking about? But when it comes to the intimacy part, I don't want to exaggerate for the sake of just doing it, but there is a piece of my heart that was opened up. Really every morning and every night since my daughter's been born. There's a different concern, there's a different attention, but there's also a different peace. There hasn't been a night that's gone by that I haven't been. Even 2 nights ago, I had this really weird moment where I felt almost like I was living an out-of-body experience, and I was like, how did I get married and have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful wife, and we have a home and a dog that we love? Like, what? How did we get here? Right. Like, I don't know how this happened. And so it's just the gratitude, too, of throwing up my hands and being, thank you, Lord. Like, thank you for this gift. And so the intimacy comes with the gratitude. I think for me at this season is just I don't know if I definitely didn't deserve it. I definitely didn't strategize on how to get here. But somehow it happened. And for that, I'm so grateful.
Amen. The connection between intimacy and gratitude and so many lessons that you just shared with us, right? Modeling vulnerability with our kids, doing that every single day, being the man or the woman that you want your son or daughter to find later on one day. Just set that example, set the pace for them to be able to look up to, but also just keep showing up. There's something powerful in somebody that just refuses to give up on somebody else. And man, if I have friends like that for the fire that I am so grateful for. I can name so many different names. My best friend's name is Josh Barrick. He was just with us at the men's retreat and he shared with some of the guys, but just having people to do life with. My wife, Evelyn, is truly, besides salvation in Christ, one of my greatest gifts, the best decision I ever made was saying yes and asking her to be my wife. And man, it's just a joy to do life alongside of people, to do it together, because that's what we were created for. Ben, as we close, man, I could chat with you about the book all day, but I'm just thinking about a person out there who's been listening, but still there's just a little bit of a feeling of, man, they do feel alone in plain sight. They feel discouraged. They feel disappointed with the way that things have gone. They just feel alone. what's one final word of hope, encouragement, and motivation you share with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would start if we were sitting face to face with that person, and I would say, you want to hear something crazy? Is that in all of my research, our pains actually maybe make us more connected than our successes. So what I mean by that is everybody in the world has experienced some sort of pain. Not everybody has experienced a joy that they can remember. Again, I think that goes back to that Velcro statement. It seems like our pains just sometimes stick out to us most. So what I want to say to that is you're not alone in your pain. Other people out there have experienced it too. So you're not alone, no matter what you're going through. The second thing I would say to them is to read the book only because it is meant to be approachable. If you're not ready to sit down with somebody and share your sorrows, to share the things that are heavy on you, or to try to figure that out, I think opening up a book and reading it alone in private and sitting in some type of contemplation and thinking through where you're at in life is a really great first step to trying to get your thoughts together. And this book is designed so that the reader does nothing more or nothing less than close it and say, I am not alone. I'm not alone. So let me take the next best step out there. Yeah. Let me go out there now and meet with somebody, or call a friend and be like, hey, I just read this book. This is what's going on in my life. Yep. This is what I'm feeling. And to be able to now speak to it because you've sat in it for a bit. You've been able to process it, pray over it, contemplate it. My final message to them is, goodness gracious, if you're listening to this, it means you have breath. And if you have breath, you have value. We need you. I know that might just sound simplified right now, and it might just sound like a one ear and out the other kind of message that somebody would say to somebody, but goodness gracious, we need you. We have a lot of pain in the world. We always have. We have a lot of people that are fighting the good fight, and we need you to step up and step through and walk with all of us, because we don't know whose life you could change today, tomorrow, and the next minute. And so as soon as you can, we need you back out there.
Ben, my friend, powerful words that instill courage and boldness in us to recognize that this world, other people, they need us each and every day, and that we're never alone. Ben, my friend, where can our audience go to find out more about you and maybe to pick up a copy of your new book, Alone in Plain Sight?
Yeah, I mean, you could Google Alone in Plain Sight. Obviously the Amazons and the Thomas Nelson websites are great. BenHigginsBook.com is also good. It kind of all links back and comes from the same place ultimately. Yes. So any of those, Alone in Plain Sight, it's re-released with not only the message about being a dad, but being a husband and what that's looked like for me. Also, you can find me at generouscoffee.com. We're very active on there. Most of my life is spent on there and not social media by choice and by intention. And so Generous Coffee is a place you can buy coffee. If you're going to drink coffee, why not make it life-changing coffee is kind of our tagline. And then finally on Instagram, if I am on social media, that's where I'm the most active. But every year that goes by, I become less and less and less and less. And so it would be great if I got better at it, but it doesn't make me better when I am better at it. And so right now I'm just, those, kind of places are the spot you can learn the most.
Ben, man, thank you so much again for your time, for sharing this meaningful conversation with us today. I want to get you out of here to go support your friend and celebrate him down at ORU tonight. But again, thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
To all of our audience at Built Different, I just wanted to say, as Ben's been saying this entire time, you are not alone. That we serve a God who says in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flames will not set you ablaze. He will always be the fourth man in your fire, which means he's going to equip you with friends for the fire as well. That being said, thank you so much for listening. We love being a part of your life.